Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the Hype Seat where real ones drop real strategy in real time. We have no scripts, no filters, no BS. We go live across TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So, what you are hearing right now, it's raw, real, and happening as we speak. No perfect edits or motivational theater, just unfiltered conversations with people who actually walk the walk. So, this show is for the builders, leaders, people creating momentum in a world full of chaos and pressure. And if you're rebuilding from scratch or leading while carrying real life behind the scenes, I see you. And that's why the show even exists. And that's why I created the Hype Collective. So each week I bring on voices that matter, not necessarily because they're famous, but because they're doing something worth talking about. If they're innovating, disrupting, or leading with intention, we are putting them in the hype seat. And today I'm so excited. We have Kyle Atkinson, an agent and creator who shows up online and showed up online even before it felt safe and found ways to make so-called basic strategies produce real results. And he knows what it takes to keep moving forward when time and energy aren't unlimited. So today we're going to be talking about putting yourself out there on social, why open houses still work if you run them right, the reality of being a dual career agent, and the conversations agents should be having but usually don't. So sit down, lock in. This is the Hype Seat. So welcome, Kyle. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Me too. So I'm just going to dive right into this and skip the polished LinkedIn version. I want you to take me to your first 6 months in real estate. And I want you to think about a moment where you thought, maybe I made a mistake, because I know you got into real estate after you had a, corporate job. So tell me about that.
So I'm fortunate in the sense that my real estate journey really started with working as a transaction coordinator and working at a front desk of a real estate office. So I was hearing the conversations, I was seeing everything kind of play out from the outskirts. So then when I finally got licensed, I was kind of like, okay, I understand what needs to happen, but how do I get to that point?
Right.
And, I remember my first clients, I was terrified because in my head, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I was like, I have to have a strong face and feel like make them feel comfortable and confident in my abilities. And so I remember sitting them down at the closing table after everything was signed. And I said, guys, you were my first clients. And they were like, we had no idea. And I was like, yes, I crushed it.
Amazing. Love that. I love that you were vulnerable enough to, and like gutsy enough to share that, because a lot of people are so afraid to like tell people that they're new. So
Absolutely. Yeah, it's scary. I mean, if they had not been so personable, I probably would have backed off a little bit. But I mean, they are lifelong clients. They're good friends of mine. We're friends on Facebook. I'm following along with their kids going back to school now. So, that's one of the aspects that I really love about those first transactions, and to really have the attention to pay to them and walk through all of the steps, and really just use it as a learning opportunity.
love that. So now fast forward to kind of where you're at now. Tell me about like how you're helping agents and how, those experiences brought you to where you're at right now.
Yeah, so about a year ago, I was approached by our team lead. It's a fancy, title in Keller Williams, and said, we need to rewrite our coaching program. And she said, here's what we kind of want to happen. Now go. And through her support, shout out Mary Niles Dayton, she's amazing. She's on a flight right now. But we worked together to really adapt this program to be for agents by agents. And what we're doing is we're taking the theory out of it and not just lecturing agents, but putting them in the field and putting the real in real estate, quite literally. And we're doing that through mock buyer consults and mock listing appointments, even mock open houses, and letting them script and role play the conversations in a safe environment where they can fail forward. So when they are working with a client, they don't have that fear of, oh my gosh, what if I say the wrong thing? Or I'm gonna use the wrong term and completely derail the transaction. And I think a lot about like when I was an agent and first started, like what did I not know? And by able to taking those experiences and implementing them in this program, it's been wonderful.
I love that. I love that. So I want to kind of tie into your answer to the previous question. So before you had a track record, maybe thinking back to that first transaction and then the following ones, how did you get people to take you seriously, even though you were newer in the game?
So I love that question. And a lot of what I kind of am teaching right now is, yes, you're new to real estate, but you're not new to life.
Mm-hmm.
And I fell back on my corporate fashion experience. I said, look, I worked as a buyer. I worked in the fashion field. I understand vendor relationships. I understand client relationships. I understand kind of forecasting the trends. And I also am really good with numbers. So by being able to take those experiences and just apply it to the real estate industry, it kind of gave me some street cred. And confidence is key. So being able to just go out and just say it with your chest, sometimes that's all that you need.
100%. I tell my agents that I coach on a regular, like, borrow credibility. You can partner on showings with people or co-host events or share your brokerage's wins, right? Like, most people, they're associated with a brokerage, whether it's small or big. You can talk about in your conversations with leads, hey, well, what's your track record? Well, our brokerage is the number one in this, or our brokerage sold this many homes this last month or whatever. And you can borrow that credibility when you're early on until you build something up. You're not making up fake numbers. It's legitimate numbers. And you can talk about, hey, I'm backed by a team that's done this, or I'm backed by a brokerage that, has amazing marketing and things like that. So I think borrowing that credibility in the beginning is kind of the fastest way to build the trust without pretending that you've done it all yourself.
100%. And that's something too, is like, when you think about the sign in the yard, it normally is that company's branding with maybe just your name on a rider or so, but you have support. You have people behind you that are going to, if you have questions, they're going to be able to walk you through. We're not just kind of going on these appointments and saying, I'm the only person that's, going to be bringing knowledge to this transaction. No, if you have a smaller brokerage, if you have a larger brokerage, there's always someone there that knows something you don't necessarily know. And I mean, you can probably attest to this. Every transaction is so different. So I'm constantly learning things, even though I've closed, a few homes and such, there's still something new with every client, every property.
100%. Have you ever been underestimated in a deal, and did you figure out how to use it to your advantage?
I will say there have been a few times that, especially earlier in my career, that more seasoned agents didn't necessarily take me as serious. It was, well, I've been in the business 20 years. It's okay, that's great. But how can we make this a win-win for both clients? And being able to kind of hit them back with that objection, they kind of then took a step back and said, oh, you can throw your hat in the ring a little bit. Mm-hmm. And that's something I'm constantly pushing, is like, just have the confidence, being able to just communicate, because that's really what is important right now. Mm-hmm. And handle those objections in real time and don't back down.
100%. A lot of agents that are in my circle that I coach, I talk about, a lot of agents that are coming into the market are younger, right? There are younger millennials or Gen Z, whatever. And they're like, well, okay, well, how do I overcome that objection? It's like, okay, well, you know what? If they say, well, you haven't been in it very long. Yeah, but you know what? I'm going to be focused on you. I have time and dedication to, and maybe the other agent you're talking to has a big team and you're just a number to them. You're not going to be a number to me. So figure out the things that you fear the most, or the objections you're afraid that you're going to get, and figure out one or two things that are actually positives for that client and why they should actually choose you in that moment. So I love what you said there, like flipping it on its head and, creating that win-win and trust with people that because you're confident. I mean, people make decisions based on what they feel. It's not always about facts. So if you're confident in that, hey, it doesn't matter how young I am, it doesn't matter what I look like or what I came from, but I'm confident that I can get the job done, you're going to win more often than not.
Always. And I love what you said there too. It's like, as a newer agent, you do have the time. Yes, you might be dual career, but you still make the time. You still answer the calls, you answer the texts. You don't have 25 listings and 30 properties under contract that you're just trying to balance everything. You have one sole purpose right now, and it's that exact client. Yeah. And sometimes that's what they want to feel. I mean, every client wants to feel like they're the only one in the world for you. And that's something I wish newer agents took advantage of in their value propositions when they're on appointments. Stress that, communicate that you are there for them.
100%. I love that. So I want to switch gears a little bit. So everyone says you got to put yourself out there, right? I've said it to, or agents that I coach, and you can't be a secret agent, but I know a lot of agents wait until it feels safe to do that, or they have a certain number of deals closed. So what's the first thing I want to know that you posted that made you feel uncomfortable, and why?
So the first thing that I posted that made me feel super uncomfortable, and I'm going to give him a shout out, Matt London, Coastal Delaware. He's huge on YouTube, and he always was telling me, get on camera, get on camera. And the first thing I did was I took a green screen, I read a news article and just said, this is what's happening in this town regarding short-term rentals. Threw it up on TikTok and just said, I'm going to post it. I'm just going to post it and see what happens. People loved it. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, people are interacting with this. And I was like, I'll do it again. And then I slowly started, kind of overcoming that fear of putting myself out there, because the reality is that's how I look and sound in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how my clients are going to view me. They might as well learn to like, know, and trust me before I even get in the door of talking to them.
100%. That is one of the things I tell agents, especially even if they are fairly active on social media, but all it is home tours and, just never their face. I'm like, you are not going to get the traction and the leads that you want unless you put your face out there. It's a lesson that I had to learn. I hired a marketing director because I'm like, I'm not going to be consistent unless I put some money into this. And so that was the number one thing she said, your face has to go on there. You have to build that trust of doing that. And so now pretty much all of my content is just me talking at you. So, I'm glad that you experienced that too. And that's what I find with people. Like, the best videos that go viral, at least in the real estate space, are the ones where you're talking in front of them. And it's not even about going viral, but just the connections that you make and the conversions that you can potentially get. Most of the time, it's if they know you and they feel like, oh yeah, I've seen you before and I know their personality and all of that, that makes the biggest impact I've found as well.
Yeah. And if an agent is like, I'm not ready to put myself on camera, start small and just record a video of B-roll of a home or photos from the MLS and do a voiceover. Take that one little step so they can at least start to hear and see that brand recognition. And then when you feel like you've conquered that, then get on camera. And there's no shame in, sitting in your office and recording video after video after video and deleting after video and just practicing that to see how you show up. And then when you feel good, hit post.
100%. And something I like about your content is you're really good about flowing between business stuff, people you coach, your ideal client, making a pizza, wine, your Prosecco, all of those things. So you flip back. So I want to know, have you ever posted something personal that turned into a business conversation?
So there was a video, I'd say a month and a half ago, that I was sobbing. I mean, I was in my bathroom, super raw, super vulnerable, just crying about this opportunity that was coming up. And the amount of support and love that I just got from that specific video that opened up other conversations online brought me to other agents that were like, hey, I'm feeling that too. Would you, take me on as a client that I can coach? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Let's sit down and chat, because people want to see that. They want to see people that are genuine and authentic. You can script things as much as you want, but people don't want someone that's scripted. They want someone that's going to give it to them real and tell them, look, do you want a comfort or do you want a solution?
Mm-hmm. I love that, comfort or solution. Sometimes it's good to ask people that, right? Like personal or clients, sometimes they just want to vent what's going on. And there's a lot of emotions in a real estate transaction for people. So I love that. Do you want comfort or do you want a solution? Is there anything that you have posted that you thought was going to do really well, but then flopped, or a certain kind of content?
All the time. I've always found it's the videos that I don't think about that do really well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it kind of goes back to that scripting thing. There's times that I could sit there and, talk about lead generation on end, and it gets 150 views. No one likes it. And then there's times that I'm talking about book club and how I'm going to gaslight everyone into thinking I know the plot, and it goes viral. So it's
I'm just here for the wine and snacks, baby.
That's what I'm here for. So it's funny to see what people are interacting with. But like you said earlier, people kind of want to see that lifestyle content too, because we are humans. It's a great conversation piece.
100%, and I found that too. That's the safe content that, might get you some polite likes or whatever, but the strategic vulnerability, that's what gets you the messages and the calls and ultimately the closings. And strategic is that key word. It's about you giving people enough of you that they feel like they know you before they even meet you. So if your content isn't making someone feel something, you're probably not selling much.
And that's the other thing too. I am on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram how I am in real life. I am a real estate gremlin. There's some mornings I'll wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're showing up like that. And I'm like, well, it is what it is.
This is me. And people love that. People are tired of the perfectly curated posts and all of that. Like it's just, it's easy, it's easily swipeable. But when you feel the real and the raw and the vulnerable, like people love to see that, or the behind the scenes stuff. So I love that you're not afraid to do that. So how did you get past the cringe factor of seeing yourself on camera and being willing to be vulnerable? How'd you get past
So
that?
I don't know if I ever have thought about how I got past it, because what happened is I was doing a lot of that scripted material up front and was just like, I'm only going to put out perfect content. And then I think one day I kind of accidentally posted something that I didn't think about. I thought I hit drafts and I actually hit share. And so I was just scrolling through, and then an hour later, like I had like 20 likes, and I'm like, where are these coming from? And then I'm like, oh my God, like I cannot believe I posted that. And I was talking to one of my good friends, and she was like, keep it. I love it. And so I just said, I'm gonna put the trust in the people, in people we trust.
Absolutely. In TikTok fans we trust, right?
Literally.
So a little advice then for people that maybe are a little bit shy about putting themselves out there, as we talk about and encourage people to do. Do you think agents should copy trending styles or build their own from day one? Like, what would you say if someone's like, okay, I know I need to get on socials? Like, what would your
I
advice
think
be for
my
them?
biggest piece of advice is find the trends and make the trends your own. There's so many viral audios kind of going around, and a lot of realtors start to kind of like use the same purpose. Like there's that Kesha song going around right now that's like, can I ask a question? And it's always a realtor running to someone's car and then popping in the back. But if somebody can take that, get the same, viral capacity of the audio and just switch the content a little bit, that's what's going to set you apart.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's okay to, copy things and make it a little original, but you still want to have that original content out there so people can kind of have a little bit of brand recognition for you specifically.
Absolutely. I like that. So tell me a little bit about switching into just clients and interactions with people and how you've handled it. So can you think of the hardest client personality that you've managed? And then how do you keep that from going sideways? Like what tools do you use to handle difficult people?
So difficult people, I'll tell you, there was a client that loved to text me at 3 o'clock in the morning. And it was never anything that I could help with. It was, oh, I need to, get my LLC started, or, I need this insurance. And I'm like, I love that you're thinking about this right now, but I'm asleep. I mean, yes, I'm seeing it in real time because I woke up. But as a
Right.
newer agent, the system you need to set in play is boundaries and set the expectations with the clients. Tell them, I do have working hours, similar to how you have a family, I have a family. And I would like to, give them some love and attention. If we're under contract and we're in negotiations, yes, you're going to be a priority to me. But if we're just going through showings and, we're just kind of starting conversations, I'll get back to you, tomorrow morning. If it's an emergency, obviously I'll help, but let's have a little bit of a boundary there.
And that's what I talk a lot too with the agents that I coach and train is even in the very beginning, even if you have the time to reply to text messages at 1 a.m. in the morning, or you're putting your all into it because this is the only client you have. Can you speak to a little bit about those boundaries that you set, and do you talk about them up front, or do you address it when they cross a boundary that you already have that maybe they don't know about? Like, how do you go about setting boundaries
So
with
when I
clients?
meet with clients, I want to give them all of the information so they can make an educated, decision on whether or not they want to work with me and what I offer as a real estate agent. And I always tell them, look, I'd rather have the tougher conversation now. So when we do get into a situation that it's going to be, okay, we've been in this a few months, now I got to revisit this. It's okay, I already set that expectation so they know it's coming. And, just reiterating to them, a lot of times these people want you to be upfront with them. They don't want someone that's going to be just kind of like, walked all over, because what's going to happen when you're in negotiations for them then? Are you then going to get walked all over by the other agent on the other side? No, they want to see someone that can negotiate and clearly communicate what they're going to expect and what they can anticipate for, the rest of the transaction or the partnership or the relationship.
Absolutely. I always tell people you set the tone in the first meeting, like how and when you're going to communicate, the response expectations and the decision deadlines for all of that. Because in my experience, most problems later come from boundaries that you didn't set early on. So and I tell people too, if you're like unsure, well, what do I talk about? Well, think of anything that has frustrated you in a transaction and remember those things, log those things down, and you add that to your initial consultation, whether it's a buyer or seller. Like, hey, I do a weekly update on the showings that happen this weekend on Mondays. That way you're on your week, that protects your weekend so that you're not constantly going back and, well, how did that showing go 2 hours ago? It's like, hey, I'm going to do a recap on Mondays, right? So that's just one example of like, hey, set the boundary early so that you anticipate the needs, but you also anticipate people crossing those. And instead of having to backtrack, you're already ahead of the game. So I love that you said that in the very beginning, put it all out there as much as you can.
I love that you just mentioned kind of like that communication guarantee, because that is the biggest gripe, especially with sellers right now, is they're like, my agent only reaches out when I need price reduction. And that's a terrible conversation to have. But unfortunately, sometimes it has to happen. And by telling them, look, every Monday, I'm going to send you an email at 10 a.m. It's going to recap everything from the past weekend. And I'm also going to explain to you what I'm doing to proactively sell your house this upcoming week, because they want to feel like it's more of a collaboration. You want to work with them. They want to feel involved. It's a big decision that they're making in selling their house. And by kind of bringing them into the action, it kind of takes a little bit of the load off of your back as well. Because sometimes they might even have a great idea to say, oh, did you think about this? And then it's like, no, I actually didn't, but thank you. I'll try it this upcoming week when I'm time blocking my marketing stuff.
Absolutely. It's so funny you say that. Literally yesterday, I had a listing client of mine call me and we were talking about it just because, it's a little bit slower in this certain area and it's in a 55 plus community. And so, it's just a smaller buyer pool. And she's like, hey, did you think about like maybe talking to the neighbors and asking if they know of anyone that is looking to move it? Because people have friends and, usually in the same age group and things like that. I'm like, you know what? I haven't talked to the neighbors. Let's try it. And so she, whatever, we talked about a couple different things, but yeah, we were collaborative on it. And then I updated her this morning. I said, hey, I'm working on that letter I'm going to be sending to them, to the neighbors around, whatever. And like, so appreciative. So it's like, you don't have to fear that or think that you have to have all the answers or all the ideas. It's like, but if you open that door of like, hey, let's talk about it, let's collab, and you have that vibe, then, your sellers will want to help you because ultimately it helps them. So I love that. I love that you brought that up.
Yeah.
So
and I love that too, because that's something too that we've not really had to do as agents, is go out there and really network with the community around us and the neighbors. And now that we are in that skills-based market, we got to get the word out as soon as we can to everyone we possibly can. And it also gets the neighbors kind of in your sphere a little bit, because they are potential sellers in the future. So why not plant the seed?
Yes, I know. And I talked to a lot of agents like, oh man, this seller wants me to do this, 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 and this. I'm like, okay, instead of just being annoyed about it, let's think about how you can make it beneficial for yourself too. Like make it a lead generation thing, like investors. I know a lot of people are like, oh, investors, they're just going to waste my time. It's like, well, if you know what their criteria is, the area, go circle prospect and look for listings. Cause you may, send one to your investor, doesn't work out, but now you started a relationship with a homeowner you would have never maybe gotten in touch with. And there's an opportunity. So it's about having that mindset of like, how can you make anything happen? Even if it's a difficult client, how can you make that an opportunity to help you?
Yeah. And that's something too, is like, as newer agents, they'll start to understand that I'm going to have a completely different conversation and experience with an investor who's more numbers driven than I would with a first time home buyer or someone that's looking for a secondary home or a vacation home. So you'll kind of learn the bits and pieces and the lingo that you need to drop with each of those almost buckets of buyers and sellers. So that's always something to kind of keep your ears open to too.
Totally. And actually you reminded me, I have a vault for my Hype Collective group coaching. I have a vault and there's like over 400 scripts in there. And so I segment it like FSBO, expired, first time home buyer, all of those things. And we have scripts for like different personality types and all of that, because you got to be able to assess that really quickly. Like over the phone, are they giving you short, direct, like dry answers? Okay, that's probably a high driver. You need to adjust your communication style to them. Doesn't mean you have to change who you are and be somebody that you're not, but it's like, okay, this person appreciates a bullet point list, not 7 paragraphs explanation about what needs to happen next. So those little soft skills, like you're talking about, that is going to be make or break for agents in a market like this. Whereas, 2 to 5 years ago, it's like you could throw a sign in the yard and it was going to sell overpriced probably. So when markets shift, like you said, that skills based market and just things that you need to have and tools in your tool belt make all the difference if you want to survive in real
Absolutely.
estate.
And I love that you mentioned, kind of like the scripting role playing piece. It is so important, even if you are an experienced agent. It's like going to the gym. You are constantly working that muscle of having the conversations, and the market's going to change. That's inevitable. That's how it happens. And yes, you might have been in the industry for 40 years, but you're not having the same conversations that you were 40 years ago. So, being able to collaborate with your fellow colleagues and just hearing bits and pieces, because someone else might say something a little more eloquent or clear and concise than you would have. So I love that you mentioned that.
100%. So let's talk lead gen a little bit. In some cases, people think open houses are, kind of basic or, maybe not as productive, but you have made them work really well. And I know you coach a lot about those in, your coaching productivity group. So what's the most unexpected result that you've ever gotten from hosting your open houses? And we'll get into like how you do them and things like that, but tell me something fun, a little unexpected that
Unexpected.
happened.
Here's the fun thing. You can go out and buy as much champagne for mimosas, the best fruit platter, the best pastries. You could have it catered, by the best person. But if you are not inviting people, no one's showing up. So then you're just sitting there with all of this stuff that you just spent money on, and there's no return. So I always tell people, if you treat it like a dinner party, you're going to have people show up. Perfect example. I have an agent that I think she was like maybe 4 months into the business, did nothing, started getting that coaching, started dialing in, first open house, invited people. You would be amazed how many people show up. She got 3 listings out of it because neighbors showed up and said, hey, we're interested in selling too. We like this price point. Why don't we have a conversation? Sold 2 houses at the same exact time because of that one open house.
Wow. Okay. I love that. And I tell people that too. Like you could go spend $10,000 on the absolute best, bougiest website in the world. But if there's no traffic being directed to it, doesn't matter. You're not going to get the results. So I love that you said that about like, it could be the most amazing thing, or you have they're going to win a car at the open house or something. Like if no one knows that, then that's not going to work, and you're not going to get the results that you want. And I love that you said that agent got sellers out of it, because I tell people this too, even though, I didn't build my business necessarily on open houses. I'm like, if I were to start all over again and I wanted to do open houses, I would go look for listing opportunities, host a neighborhood only exclusive 30-minute block before the public one, obviously if it's a brand new listing, for all the neighbors to come, nosy neighbor open house or whatever, like for people to do that. That's it's different. It stands out. You're getting unrepresented homeowners, in the area that you're selling that piece of property, and you get to have one-on-one conversations with people. So a great way to lead generate, not just for buyers, but also for sellers. Any other tips or tricks or like things that work really well to get people in the open house and to convert?
So I think the marketing piece of the open house is super, super important. So I always tell my agents, if you miss the deadline by like Tuesday afternoon, there's really not a ton of sense of doing an open house the next weekend, because you've kind of already missed the mark. You want to make sure that you're putting it in at least Monday afternoon. So those third-party sites like Zillow, Homes.com, Realtor.com are tagging it. So people that don't have a buyer's agent are seeing that, because that's where they're doing the research. And going to the property, set up a 30-minute showing so you know the product before you're trying to sell it. Make video content, invite people on socials, go to a local store or boutique or coffee shop or restaurant around that area, tag them and say you're doing a raffle, because then you're putting yourself in front of their database and their network. Tell people to enter the raffle. They have to share your open house invite. And another perfect thing that always gets slept on, in my opinion, is reaching out to past clients or anyone in your database and saying, hey, I'm going to be here from 11 to 1. I would love for you to stop by, bring a friend. I want to catch up. I want to hear what's going on in your life. Like, tell me. And it also brings in some traffic, so the seller looks happy. And it's also helping your pipeline.
100%. Ooh, I love that. I have never heard that before. Like, invite, even if they're, not in the area or not in the market, like, hey, I'd love to see you. I'm going to be here, post it up. So I'd love to catch up. That's awesome. I love that. So how do you handle visitors who clearly aren't ready to buy or just seem like they're looky-loo, do you have any tips or tricks for handling those
So if they're not a
interactions?
buyer today, they're going to be a buyer tomorrow. And
Mhm,
what we need
mhm.
to do, and I talked about this yesterday on a live, is you're building your pipeline. We have agents that have transactions. I call them the roller coaster business because they go under contract, close, then they fall back down. And then they got to start lead generating again, go under contract, and then they fall back down. We want to keep it smooth
Mm,
and steady. So if you have somebody coming in today and they say, hey, I'm not buying until at least December. Okay, that's great. That's one person I know that's going to help me get through that holiday season. Might help pay a few of my, holiday bills as well. Perfect. Another example, I have a client right now that said, I'm not purchasing until at least February. She's coming down in August. And I said, you know what? We'll look at communities. Let's look at them and just get a general feel of the area because that's somebody I know that come December, I'm going to be following up with aggressively and making sure that, we're
mm.
seeing properties. She's seeing what's on the market so we can get an offer and get it closed by February 1.
Absolutely. So what do you do then? So when people come in, what do you do the week after? I mean, maybe even the day after the open house to make it worth your time? Like, what does your follow-up look
Follow up
like?
is super, super key, especially with an open house. So I always have people try to sign in. I've played around with QR codes. I've tried around with, just paper sign ins. I like the paper sign in a little bit more. And I also kind of verify the information with them a little bit. I always make sure there's some
Mhm.
sort of disclosure that says, look, by dropping your email, you are consenting that you'll just pop on my monthly newsletter. I'm not emailing you 15 times a month, once a month, and it keeps you forefront of them. Another thing I like to do is I give them a quick call. I say, hey, I know, we met this past weekend. You mentioned some things about the house. I wondered if you have any more questions or if you had feedback that I could bring back to the seller because they're asking me and I know you were there and I
Mhm.
would love to hear your thoughts. The third thing that I love, and I'm stealing it from one of my agents, she sends a video message to everyone that attends the hour after the open house saying, thank you so much for coming by. Again, I'm so and so. If you have any questions, this is my direct number. Shoot over any information.
I'm obsessed. So I'm big on video. So everyone, like the agents that I go to train, they know like, okay, Jen, I'll send my video messages, but that is so different and hardly any other agents are doing it. But imagine, I mean, they're getting to see your face without having to follow you on social media. Maybe they don't know you, you're not established or whatever, but sending a video text message, they're 100% going to watch it. They're just out of curiosity, even at like, oh, someone sent me a video. Like, I don't even do that to my best friend
Yeah.
very often, So just little ways to stand out like that. I absolutely love it. I hope people listening will steal that too, because it is so impactful than just a text message or an email or whatever. That makes a huge difference. And it's telling them, oh, like even if they had to list their house or just even down the road, that's something they're going to remember because nobody else does that. So I love
Yeah,
that.
exactly. I mean, you can have all the cute little tchotchkes with the open house that, like the pop-on buys and the bag of popcorn, but that one touch. Because I mean, think of like the 36 touches system, 3 touches essentially a month for 12 months. That's not a ton, but if you're doing
Mm-mm.
4 open houses a month, let's be conservative and say 2 open houses. You could realistically get in front of 20 people if you get 10 each. And those are 20 people that you've sent a video to. That's 20 touches. And the conversion rate right now is like 4.7%. So realistically, you can get one client out of that. And it takes like 10 minutes. It's so
Right.
freaking easy.
Absolutely. And it's easier. And if you think about the time that it takes you to text something to, oh, mistyped, whatever, versus just popping on your video, hey, so great to see you at that open house. Let me know if you have any questions. Happy to help. Whatever. Like that's shorter time than takes you to draft an email or even a text
Mhm.
message. So I love that. Okay, if you couldn't do open houses anymore for whatever reason, what would you replace that with to get that face-to-face
If I
volume?
wasn't doing open houses anymore to get face to face, I would pop up in a local Starbucks and I would put a sign out that says, I'm a real estate expert. Talk to me and I'll buy you a coffee.
Ooh, I
Yep.
love
And
that.
it's super simple. You get their phone number, their email address, just say, hey, I want to send notes to you. Or maybe we'll have a follow up appointment after this. And just that little interaction, because how many people go into Starbucks to work? I mean, that's a pull deficient right then and there. I mean, I'm there all the time with recruiting appointments. And afterwards, I always build in at least 10 minutes or 15 minutes to kind of read the room and see who's been sitting here, who looks like they're interested in a conversation. And then I just kind of act on it.
I love that. Okay, so I take it, do you do this currently where do you have that sign? Like, do you put it on a little stand? Like,
Yeah,
what do
so
you
I've
do?
done it twice now. And what I do is I literally, it just says, like, it's not glamorous. It says, I'm a real estate agent. If you have any questions about the buying process or the selling process, let me know. Let's sit down. I'll help you out and I'll buy you a coffee. Now, I normally always ask the barista, I'm like, hey, I've done this. Is this okay with you? Do you mind? I'm sitting here. I'm paying like $50,000 to you already. Coffee is like $7. And most of the time they're, the 16-year-old's like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. And then I do it. And I've gotten some really good leads from it because people are genuinely curious about it.
Well, and you're giving me all sorts of ideas too. I mean, you could even, if you're like, maybe you're more of an introvert or like that sounds scary, bring a lender partner with you. Hey, I'm a lender and agent here. I can answer all your, on your way out the door. Like we can answer your questions or whatever. That's a, just an idea, and you don't have to prep for it, plan for it. It's just throw up a sign and do the work that you were already going to do anyways at Starbucks. So
yeah, it's like a double-ended time block because you're lead generating while you're doing all your administrative stuff. Another really good one is like local libraries are so slept on right now. Just reaching out to them and saying, hey, I want to do some sort of first-time home buyer workshop, or maybe it's like a relocation, or partner with an attorney and do like wills and estates and just say it's sponsored by Kyle Atkinson Realtor, like all that kind of stuff, because you're already getting a database of people that are getting value out of it. And then having an agent there might be able to kind of help them understand what that selling process would look like. And you have an attorney to answer all the legal questions.
Love that. That's a great idea. Yes, actually, I have one of my agents who he goes into the library every single morning and has even gotten, a couple just because like familiarity, right? You start even, yes, the workers, but like there are other people that go there to work as well that could be absolutely buyers and sellers in that exact area that you're in. So loving these ideas. So I want to transition to, because I know both you and I coach people who potentially have another career or doing real estate on the side, and balancing real estate with another job can be really tough if you're not, disciplined and have a clear path of like what you're doing and how you're doing it. So what's the most important thing a dual career agent should do with the limited time that they have?
The first thing they need to do is realize it's a lead generating business. So they're not going to work their day job or their night job and then go home and sit there and let the business fall in their lap. They need to chase the business. They need to utilize that other job as a source for, potential leads. Obviously clear it with the boss if you're talking to people coming in, but talk to your coworkers. How many people, working in the hospitality industry or the retail industry that are renting right now that might have dreams of home ownership? That's a database right there that you already have that you need to tap into. And kind of the second part of that is time blocking. You need to set time aside for real estate, whether it's following up with people, whether it's getting your systems put in place, whether it's meeting with a coach and kind of talking about what the next steps are. Because I'm going to be really controversial in saying this, but you can only use the crutch of being a dual career agent so long before you get in your own way. Because I'm going to be the first person to say, I did it. I have another agent that was dual career that put in the work, and now she's $1 million producer. She doesn't have to work that second job anymore. So you have to really push yourself hard and have a tribe of people that behind you that are pushing you along and there for support and answering any questions you have. Because if you are working a second job, you might not be able to go on a showing, but it's being able to juggle that and communicate with a client like, hey, I'm not available right now. I'm in a meeting until about 3:30, but as soon as I'm finished that meeting, I'll call you right back. They don't need to know the meeting is you finishing a shift at the local diner.
Exactly. Everything's a meeting in my world. I don't care if it's a nail appointment or, a phone call with my mom or whatever, like, oh, I'm in an appointment or whatever, or you're at your job. I love that. And that's what I tell people. Everything that you do. Oh, hey, I'm just finishing up an appointment, just finishing up a phone call. That is your answer to everything. And I agree with you. It's like, it can be very difficult to have two different careers. And one of the first questions I ask is, okay, well, what is your part-time or full-time job they're doing on the side? And how can we tie in real estate to it? I've got one of my agents that I coach, and she's on my team here in Florida. She works at a dress shop, like a wedding dress shop. And I'm like, That's phenomenal. I love that because guess what? People who are getting married are, what do they want to do next? They want to buy a house. And so she has gotten multiple leads just from focusing on like and asking the right questions. So, if she wasn't in real estate, it's like, obviously you're going to have different conversations. You may not ask that, but now, and she did get clearance from her boss. Her boss knows she's in real estate. So not only are the people that work there, she's getting opportunities from, but all of the brides that come in, or moms of the daughters going to prom, or so it's just thinking how you can infuse and incorporate real estate no matter where you go in your personal life and your other job. I think is super important, especially if you want to eventually make real estate your full time. It's kind of realizing that, okay, you're trying to get away from the security into the potential. And so I guess a question for you on that is like, how do you keep that energy up when you're switching in between jobs? Because one of the first things that I notice when dual career agents get into the real estate industry is like, they have all these plans and they set their time blocks, but then after work or before, it's like they're exhausted because they just work their other jobs. So what would be some advice for people like in trying to switch that energy and focus into real estate?
So when you're first sitting down and let's say you just got licensed, or you just got your license, you just joined your brokerage, you need to sit down and have clear goals. And a lot of the times that goal is, I only want to sell 4 houses this year, but I want to become full-time in real estate. And you need to be completely hard on yourself and remind yourself every single day that you want to leave that W-2 job that's holding you down with no flexibility to get to that 1099 independent contractor land. And by revisiting those goals and reminding yourself, this is why I'm doing it. Is it for family? Is it to provide for your kids? Is it to put yourself through school? And I often feel by reminding yourself, you're changing your mindset and you're pushing yourself a little bit harder than you would. And also just be creative. While you're at the house cleaning, listen to a real estate podcast, because you're kind of then still having the conversations and hearing the vocabulary in real time. So you're still kind of working the muscle, but you're not being just sitting at a desk like, okay, I got to lead generate right now. You got to give yourself a little bit of grace there.
I love that. So if somebody, let's just say, only has 5 hours every week for real estate based on, the other job that they have, how should they spend it? How should they utilize
So
those
20
hours?
minutes of that 5 hours, do the 5-5-5 rule. 5 calls or texts.
Tell me.
Yep. 5 comments of 5 words or more on socials, and 5 DMs, because everyone's on social media right now. That's where a lot of buyers and sellers are looking for their information. And again, it takes 20 minutes because we don't want to be transactional. We want to be relationship focused. So Facebook does this beautiful thing where they remind you whose birthday it is every single day. So all you have to do is take the 2 seconds and go click, 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 click. It's happy birthday for 5 people. And, that's 20 minutes. Then I would start to get a little creative with the lead gen. Okay, well, the 5-5-5, that's only get me so far. Who have I contacted that I've not followed up with? How can I put a 30-minute time block there to, follow up on conversations past, see if their goals have changed, see if maybe they talk to that spouse or their partner that how to help them make that decision. I also encourage build in an hour of just learning opportunities, whether it's a training, whether it's listening to a podcast or listening to an audiobook or hopping on YouTube. There's a ton of great resources out there, and continuing to educate yourself. That's what I would really heavily focus on that.
Love that. Love that. These are all great tips. And honestly, even if you're not dual career, even just that 20-minute everybody can find 20 minutes in a day. And I love the 5-5-5. So you said 5 calls or texts, 5 comments publicly on social media, and then 5 DMs.
And the comments, be super genuine and authentic with it. Like if it's somebody, back to school season's happening right now, that is a great comment opportunity for you. So I mean, always just pushing things out there, and especially with people posting their recipes and their dogs. Who doesn't love food and who doesn't love dogs?
Right? Absolutely. Love it. So let's talk a little bit about real estate conversations that you wish agents would have more often, even if it's uncomfortable. Like, what are the things agents are avoiding in your experience that they need to have anyways?
Asking for help. I wish so many people would approach a top producing agent and say, I'm stuck. What do you wish you knew when you first started that could get me out of that funk? What can you tell
Mm,
me today that's going to be that fire under my butt that gets me going? Or reaching out to,
mm,
if you have a staff at your brokerage, I mean, just ask for help. Most of the people in this industry want to see you succeed. There are enough sellers and buyers out there for everyone.
everyone. Yes, there's enough business to go around.
So don't be afraid. And, it kind of leans on that other aspect of like, you only know what you know and you don't know what you don't know. So by having those
Yep.
conversations with people that are doing it at a higher level, you're learning things that you may not have been able to, kind of open yourself up to if you just stayed in your kind of little corner and stayed to yourself.
Hmm. I like it. What is the most common bad habit you see agents pick up early
Creative
on?
avoidance. So,
Yes,
so
so true.
I think that's a prerequisite to be a real estate professional is you have to be really good at
Mhm.
avoiding things. And it's that time block. It is that lead gen time block that somehow moves from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. to the next day because we're working on the open house flyer. Or, oh, I'm going to do
Mhm.
some content really quick. Or, oh, I got distracted and maybe I should go, do another class. No, if you have a time block, stick to it.
Mhm. Absolutely. It's funny. All of these things you're saying, I'm like, we just had a meeting about that, or I just did a session on that. So this is totally resonating. I'm glad you are echoing all the things that I tell people. And I find that it's the middle part of this business where that's where most people quit. It's not the start because you got a lot of excitement, not the finish. If you've made it over the hump of the difficulty in building a business, it's just that like 6 to 9 month mark where the excitement is gone and your results haven't caught up yet for the activity you're putting in. But it's like that's the work, that's the grind where you either become consistent or you become a statistic of, unfortunately, in this industry where you fall off. And so I tell people it takes longer than what you think it should take, and it's harder than what you think
It
it
is
should
hard.
be.
It is hard. And I'll be the first person to say the bar of admittance is low. They don't prepare you for what you need to do to be successful. And they're not telling you, you're going to have hard conversations. You're going to have days where you sit in your car and you drive home in complete silence because you need to recharge your social battery. But if you can overcome all of that, you are going to succeed in this business.
It's a numbers game. It's like there are a lot of emotions in real estate, both with our clients and with ourselves. But it's at the end of the day, it's a numbers game. You can be any personality type. You can come from anything, start with a lot or a little. And if you just stick with it long enough, it's going to hit, it's going to land. So I love that. So I know we're starting to wrap up here, but I have a few more questions for you and a little fun hot take section that I do with every single one of my people that I interview. But 10 years from now, when people say your name, Kyle Atkinson, what do you want them to say next? What do you want your legacy
I
to
want to
be?
be known as Kyle the coach, but I want to be known as a coach that's not just like out there just giving scripted materials. I want to give you the foundational pieces, but I want you to be able to style it in your own way. So that's what I want. I want people to still feel like I'm approachable. I want there to be brand recognition, but I want to help these newer agents that sometimes get cast off into the shadows and have potential, that have the drive. They just need that little push.
Hmm. I love that. Yeah, because our legacy isn't about your Instagram highlight reel, right? Like we're in that a lot. We're on social media, you do all the things, but it's about what's true when you're not in the room. And my goal has always been when people talk about me from years from now that they can name like specific skills or systems or habits that changed how they do business because I was a part of their life. Not like, oh, she was super nice or she was really busy or whatever, but just like I gave them something that they still use in their day-to-day life, or whether it's one nugget like a phrase or whatever, or it's like I said, a system, but just something that was impactful that made a difference in their life. So I love what you said there about not just a scripted in the box type thing, which anyone can do, but really impactful, meaningful things that they can carry with them the rest of their lives. I
Yes.
love that. Okay, so this section is one of my favorite sections during the podcast interviews. It's called Hot Take. So this or that. And he was not prepped for this. You guys didn't tell him what they were, but it's just going to be rapid fire questions. And you have to pick this or that and just go with your gut.
Oh,
no
I'm scared, but I'm so excited.
Let's do this. All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Hit me.
Okay. Here we go. Door knocking or cold calling?
Door knocking.
TikTok or Instagram for lead gen?
TikTok.
4 $500,000 deals or 1 $2 million
The 4,
deal?
because the reason, oh, never mind, I can't tell you why.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll come back. Okay. Buyers or sellers?
Sellers.
Host events or run ads?
Host events.
Lose the deal or lose the
Lose the deal.
relationship? Outwork the room or outposition the room?
Oh, I'm going to go with outwork.
I know these are meant to be hard. Fire a client early or suffer through the close? Early. Investor only or first-time buyers only? Okay. More referrals or more cold leads?
Referrals.
Best listing photos or best negotiating
skills? Best negotiating skills.
Heck yeah. 5 years at number 1 or 25 years respected but never number 1?
Let's go 25. We want longevity.
Love it. You made it. I love it. I know it's so hard not to explain because some of them are like, oh, but in this,
like I need to explain myself.
Exactly. I know. Love it so much, you guys. Kyle Atkinson, you can find him at Kyle Atkinson Realtor on all the socials. So where else though? Where can people follow you, connect with you, or see what you're building?
Yeah, follow me on TikTok right now. That's my bread and butter. That's where I'm showing up the most. Instagram and Facebook, you'll still see me. But if you want the true, authentic Kyle Atkinson, I'm going to be on that TikTok 3 times a day at least. So check out me. Yeah, check me out there.
Perfect. And just so you guys know, we have all of Kyle's links in the show notes. So if you're rewatching this, you'll be able to find everywhere to connect with him there. Kyle, thank you so much for going deeper than just like buzzwords that we hear all of the time. I think a lot of what you said is going to resonate, whether you're brand new or experienced in this industry. So super appreciate all your insight for that. And then I just want everyone to remember, it is not about doing more things. It's about doing the right things on repeat until you're undeniable and you're successful. So anything else, Kyle, that you want to share or that we didn't cover today?
I don't think I think we've covered a lot of really good stuff. And, you know, consistency will always beat talent.
100%. Every day. That is a great thing to end on. So thanks again, Kyle. It was so fun. We'll have to have you back to talk even more real estate stuff.
I had a blast. Really fun. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. This was The Hype Seat. We'll see you.